Cleary's notes, page 41 of the Avatamsaka Sutra.
You want to read it to me, please?
Yeah, sure. I'll read these two paragraphs. An important theme in the 10 stages, one that appears here and there throughout the scripture in various guises, is the cultivation of both mundane and transmundane welfare. This is presented in concrete terms in this book, as the practitioner in a certain stage engages in the development and exercise of skills and worldly occupations. The choice of activities, whether in the arts and sciences, business, crafts, literary and cultural pursuits, entertainment, or other fields, is guided not by the personal desires of the practitioners, but by the current needs of the society that they are serving, according to what it will be beneficial. The development of such occupational skills is undertaken in the same stage at which meditation is the main practice among the 10 transcendent ways. The balancing of work in the world and world-transcending practices characteristic of the ideal of comprehensive Buddhist activity functions to promote the simultaneous benefit of self and others, preventing what is called, quote, intoxication by the wine of meditation concentration, end quote, an obstacle in the path and an indulgence forbidden by the precepts of enlightening beings. In a later stage, these worldly occupations become effortless and can be carried on spontaneously without obstruction. My question regarding that, well, first, if you could comment on that, but my more specific question is...
Okay, good. And let's do both of that. But before you get to your question, I want to underscore the last sentence, okay? And the other thing I'd like to say is if you could take a picture of that and tweet it out, post it, I'll be more than happy to retweet that. That's gorgeous. And it's so important. It's really important because so many Buddhists, I get questions like, oh, well, if I go down the spiritual path, then, I can't be an entrepreneur. I can't start my own company. And crazy ass stuff like that. How do you, if you know emptiness, then you can't function in the world, right? So what good are you anyway? Mm-hmm. So that's a very common misconception. So take a photo of that and post it when you get a chance.
Will do.
Post it in 3 sections. It's got beautiful points in it. Now your question, I'm sorry.
My question is general. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about, and you've mentioned briefly in moments when we've discussed before, what occupations the world is needing. You've mentioned perhaps legal work for those who are being incarcerated who actually need mental help as opposed to incarceration, and some other things.
Absolutely. I mean, we're not only killing, not only we throwing away humans, sometimes starting at a very early age, we're killing ourselves with this stupidity, right? So criminal justice is clearly has to be reinvented, and it will be. And the AI is not going to allow us this insanity that was the 20th century, Now, but there are many, many fields like this. I mean, and as you were talking, I was thinking prompt engineers, So this is a vitally important part of this, and it is, and which part you want to be focused on, because there's different parts. But the one that I'm excited to hear articulated so well is that basically there comes a point after which life is effortless. I mean, that's not the problem. So the problem is having a human body. But in terms of understanding things, there's no effort to understand things anymore. It's really why, especially when it comes to Dharma or psychology, things like that. So the only limitation to understanding is you can see even though I can't write well, I can see through people's writing where they are, and I can see through the structure even, or the word choices. It's very strange, but it's very real, and I recommend it to anybody. And that's how these people like Eckhart Tolle and these guys can just spontaneously spin off a talk, spin off an explanation, spin off when I go now and I read poetry that used to be very difficult for me, Ezra Pound, and subtleties of Eliot, for example. Now it's the easiest thing in the world. It's very bizarre and peculiar. But yeah, life becomes effortless because you're according with the way, you're working with the flow. It's like if you want to get to an island and the tide is pulling you towards the island, don't swim in the other direction, for God's sake. Let yourself be taken. Let yourself be pulled. And it's kind of like that. And it's the most bizarre feeling. And so that's the last thing that you said. So I'm kind of have to work backwards. What was the point before that?
This is the one I was probably most curious about. The choice of activities is guided not by the personal desires of the practitioners, but by the current needs of the society that they're serving according to what will be beneficial. And I was curious for you to...
within their capabilities and their gifts. So yeah, so people come to me all the time. They want to know, what do I do with my life?
Mm-hmm.
And if they could just sit down, quiet down in bed and contemplate it, what will come to them is, well, wait a minute, what does the world need for me to do with my life? And invariably, those two things, when mixed together, what you want to do and what the world needs to do, then what emerges is something absolutely unique and something useful and fulfilling for the person. There's nothing more fulfilling. You know that. I mean, what makes me happier than one of my folks succeeding, and doing well? Nothing makes me happier than that. Right? Mm-hmm. Of course. And so that's our given nature for all of us. And so in choosing what the world needs, or choosing what can I do in order to make a living in this world? Well, the world rewards people who do things that is needed or desired by the culture. And if you're smart, you won't just go with the latest fad. You won't buy a swatch. You buy a watch that is more durable and is more classic. And you can wear that watch for 60 years, and it always looks okay because it's classic, right? So it's not rocket science. People need help. They need help understanding. They need help coping. They need help translating, texts from the legal to the English or vice versa. They need legal representation in our current system. We need juries, good ones. There's an endless list of constructive things that a lawyer could do. Treating water is going down the drain in our country in our culture at the moment. And so everybody that's got anything has got to pull, and we got to pull in the same direction, which is towards progress, towards growth and health, and away from the decadence and the corrosion and the corruption of our culture, our society, the place where we raise children, the place where we demonstrate our love for each other, for our children, and our self-respect, and all that's in disarray now. It's crumbling, and so I don't want to be too specific because that's something we definitely I'd want to talk to someone offline, and I do that a lot. But the question is more, what does the world need? And when you meet the world's need with your skills, especially if you took some time to get those skills, you'll be happy, the world will be happy, and that's how people get wealthy and become wise, right? And so don't get me started on what the legal system needs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the family court, for example, the dependency court. We have judges. The judges in America, there's no requirement whatsoever that they understand anything about child development, nor that they've raised a child themselves, and yet they make life and death decisions for children all the time. And the life and death decisions include whose house are you going to live in, who are you going to call mommy and who are you going to call daddy, and are you going to grow up with your brother or your sister, or are we going to take those away from you too? And so we see that kind of insanity every day in this country because the judges have no information, no knowledge base. they rotate. Not all of them. I'd say, but in my experience in California, like 95% of them rotate through that the way I rotated through my gynecology rotation. It's like somebody's got to do it. Nobody wants to do it, but somebody's got to do it. So, you do it for a month and get it over with, and then you go to the good stuff, the heart surgery or the ophthalmology or whatever turns you on. But see, now that's how they look at having to do pediatric court, family court, dependency court.
Right.
It's like a chore. It's like, oh man, I can't wait till my month's over. So they do exactly what the department says, and that's all they do. And the department is neurotic and arrogant and ignorant, and those are very, very bad combinations when you're talking about taking children from their mothers. So that's also a legal process. Instead of asking, what do I want? A better question would be, what does the world want or need? What does the world need? And then what part of me can fit, which need, right? Because some of us are good with numbers. Some of us are good with words. Some of us are good with pictures. Some of us are good with concepts. Some of us are good with our hands. Everybody's got a role to play, and we need everyone.
Agreed.
But to do that, we're going to have to drop a lot of this silliness. And that's what it's become silliness. It's no longer, the word silly is no longer appropriate because now it's getting very, very destructive.